everyone, it's Nina and welcome back to my channel. Today we are going to be talking about my best books from 2022. So I have 7 books here that we're going to be talking about. I'm going to do them in no particular order, so it isn't going to go from like my lowest favorite book to my most favorite book. There are some new releases in this category, but I also want to do a ranking video talking about all of the books that came out in 2022 that I read this year. And that will probably come out after the new year. So if that sounds interesting, please consider subscribing so you can stick around on my channel to see when that comes out. But with that intro out of the way, let's get into talking about my favorite books from 2022. So the first one we're going to be talking about is House of Hollow by Crystal Sutherland. This is a YA horror thriller that's about 3 sisters who end up going missing when they are younger. And then exactly a year later, they end up reappearing, but something is a little bit off about them. They all end up kind of like changing their physical appearance. Their hair turns really white and their eyes become dark, and they all sort of start exhibiting these strange supernatural abilities. The story primarily follows the youngest sister, Iris, who is still living at home with her parents while her other 2 sisters have already moved out. And when their older sister ends up going missing again, they kind of are pulled back into a web of trying to figure out what has happened to her now and if it has any connection to when they went missing as children. I really like the pacing of the book. I find that it's always very suspenseful in a way that it's like a page turner. You're constantly trying to get to the bottom of what's going on. And I felt like the flashbacks of when the girls are younger, kind of filling out their backstory, is never cutting into the tension, which is a thing that I really find very annoying in a lot of other thrillers I read. This is also a YA, so it's not too scary, and the body horror elements are done more to be eerily beautiful than outright gross. And it's all kind of packaged up in the end with a neat little bow with this very hopeful open ending, so that the author has the opportunity to expand on this story and open it up for sequels in the future. The next book we are going to be talking on this list is Darius the Great is Not Okay by Adib Khorram. This is a YA contemporary that follows Darius, who is a mixed Iranian and white teenager. His family is going to Iran to meet Darius' grandfather, who is slowly succumbing to his illness, so this is kind of the one chance that Darius and his sister will be able to meet his grandfather in person before he passes. And it kind of just follows Darius in this new environment as he is meeting his extended family and ends up making his first real friend. One major standout of this book is the mental illness rep, because Darius has depression and it's a big factor with the emotional parts of the book. Another big factor of the book is just about different types of family connections. Darius is able to finally feel at home in Iran, and he's able to connect to that part of his identity that when he was in America, just kind of he only saw through the lens of people being racist to him. Talking about other aspects of general family bonding, I really like the relationship of Darius and his father. That is the part of this book that specifically made me cry. I just really like looking at books that are made for teens and how they portray the parent characters. I feel like this one did a really good job of humanizing the parents and showing a really strong parent and child relationship. Another part of this book that I don't think I mentioned in other reviews where I've talked about it is that I find it very, very funny. Darius has a very quirky way of talking. He has a very dry and also nerd-based sense of humor that I really resonated with. I think I'm going to keep going with the rest of the YA books I have on this category, and then we'll move into my adult books. But the next book on this list is Belladonna by Adeline Grace. This is a historical murder mystery that follows the main character Signa as she's trying to find the killer of her aunt along with the help of the personified form of death itself. I literally cannot go more into detail because I'm really bad at summarizing the story for some reason. The main part of this book that I really enjoyed was the romance. It is just so up my alley. It's one of those human girls paired with possibly thousands of year old immortal being type romances. I have no idea if there's a proper name for this category of romance, but please let me know if you have any similar recommendations or know what the proper title would be. Anyway, that trope is very much at the heart of this book, and I think one of the main reasons why I like it. And I think it's something that the book is also wanting you to focus on, so if you don't like that trope, you probably won't enjoy this. There's just a really targeted characterization of things I like and how their relationship progresses. This is my first book by Adeline Grace, but I really enjoyed it. I feel like her writing was just so beautiful and romantic. And I'm very, very excited for the next book. I think this is going to be a duology, but honestly, these stories are like popcorn. I could read a million murder mysteries with these characters. The next book we are going to be talking about is Abhorsen by Garth Nix. This is the 3rd book in the Old Kingdom series and is the last one in the original trilogy. This is a fantasy where the main magic system focuses on necromancy, and the Abhorsen, like the title, is basically a peacekeeping necromancer who, when things that crawl out of death that aren't supposed to be there, they send them back into death. The main plot focuses around the main characters Lyrael and Sam trying to stop this ancient evil from being resurrected. Similarly to House of Hollow, I really enjoy the pacing of this book. I really like that this book is just so action-oriented. You're really barely able to catch your breath with how quickly they're moving from one scene to the next. I do think this book is a little bit more of plot over characters, but at the same time, I really love the characters and the way that they interact with each other. I also really love Garth Nix's world building. I feel like there's just so much of an attention to detail with like the clothes that they're wearing and the technology and like what kind of powers they have and what the limitations of them are. So there's never a point where it feels like he's stuck in like a Deus Ex Machina to make the story work. It's just all very well planned out and grounded within the world of the Old Kingdom. Okay, now we're going to move on to the adult books that I ended up enjoying from this last year. The first one, which I think a lot of people have put on their best lists over the years, is Song of Achilles by Madeline Miller. This is a retelling of the Greek epic The Iliad from the perspective of the main character Patroclus, and it goes through his childhood all through the end of his life alongside the famous Greek hero Achilles. This is a very famous TikTok book that a lot of people cry at. I actually did not cry at this one, but I think it was because I knew the original myth enough that I was not like shocked by the ending. This book, though, is like incredibly beautifully written. There's so many like amazing quotes that I definitely like want to go back through and annotate this book and pick them all out. And of course, I love the dynamic between Achilles and Patroclus that is at the heart of the book. It's really good to see them at like every single stage of their life. I think it just kind of makes the whole relationship so much more beautiful and really heart-wrenching in the end. The next book on this list is Klara and the Sun by Kazuo Ishiguro. Now, a bit of a spoiler is that I ended up giving this 4 stars when I initially read it, but it has really stuck with me. So I feel like this honestly should be a 5 stars, but I don't really need to like retroactively go back and change my ratings on things. This book is a near-future dystopia. The main character, Clara, is an AF, or artificial friend, which is basically a robot companion that the teens in this world have to help them socialize since all of their learning is done online. And yes, this book was written post-COVID. Clara ends up getting paired with this sickly girl named Josie, and it basically talks about her life through the next 4-ish years while Josie owns her. I really like that this book has like a lot under the surface that you can kind of pick up and analyze aspects of the story in different ways. Some of those kind of general themes would be like what it means to be human, talking about like religious faith and the power of hope, being both like anti-technology, but also kind of having this like reverence and respect for technology. I think the main reason why I rated this lower than 5 stars in my initial read was because the ending is quite sad, and it has kind of like a very personal trigger to me that makes me sad. But again, upon reflection now, I do really love it, and it's stuck with me all this time since I've read it, and I definitely highly recommend it for other people to check out. Okay, the last book we are going to be talking about is another very popular one that I'm sure you've heard of on other people's like best of lists. And that is The Secret History by Donna Tartt. This is a literary fiction novel that is about the main character, Richard, who ends up transferring to a new school and joins a very selective group of ancient Greek students. They're all rich and very smart, and Richard kind of gets like dazed by their glamour. But as the school year goes on, some drama unfolds that results in the death of one of the members of the group. Similarly to Klara and the Sun, there's just so many themes in this book that are so well articulated. I would be here all day if I went through all of them, so I'm just going to link my monthly wrap-up where I talked about this book up above. This is considered one of the mothers of the dark academia subgenre, and because of that I was kind of able to set the agenda to have our dark academia books really focus on this critique of higher academia. One aspect of this book that I really enjoy that I don't see brought up a lot in other like reviews of this book is just how funny it is. It is a very dry, dark humor, but I would be like laughing out loud at so many different parts of this book. I said this in my initial review as well, but I feel like if you like the movie Heathers, you'll probably like this book for that same kind of like overall tone and kind of like the way it makes fun of death in a very like bleak, dry way. And of course, there's also the vibes. This book both has like really strong like dark academia vibes, but also this kind of like really interesting 80s energy. Anyway, that is my list of the best books that I read in 2022. Please let me know down below what your favorite books from this year were. I would love to get some recommendations from other people. If you enjoyed this video, please consider liking it or subscribing if you aren't already. I have many more videos planned for the end of the holiday season leading into the new year that I'm very excited about. So I would love for you guys to be able to be here for those videos when they come out. That all being said, thank you guys so much for watching. As always, I hope you all have a wonderful day, and I will see you all in the next video.